Difficult but necessary conversations to learn. As a superior, there are 3 difficult but inevitable conversation scenarios that you may encounter. These 3 scenarios are: when a subordinate asks for a raise or promotion, when an important subordinate resigns, when a subordinate's performance is not up to standard and needs to be advised to leave. Let's discuss them one by one. How to deal with a subordinate asking for a promotion or raise. Many superiors are afraid of subordinates asking for a promotion or raise, mainly due to 2 reasons. First, they do not have the authority to make the decision and need to apply for approval from the company, so they lack the motivation to do so. Second, some superiors may turn a blind eye to the issue, thinking that if they don't talk about it, the subordinates won't think about asking for a raise. However, if you think this way, you don't understand human nature well enough. Moreover, with the development of information technology, recruitment information for various companies is readily available online, and market conditions can be easily researched. Smart superiors should first establish the correct mindset and not be afraid to hear subordinates ask for a promotion or raise. Why? You need to change your mindset. Promotion and salary increases are inevitable, and you should encourage your subordinates to seek more. However, they must also be willing to put in more effort. This is the solution to resolving conflicts. Therefore, the correct way to deal with this is to first assess whether the subordinate has the ability to take on higher challenges. Generally, you may need to involve your superiors and HR in the evaluation process. If you find that the subordinate still needs to improve, you should be honest and point out the gap between their current abilities and the requirements of a higher position. If you believe that the subordinate has the potential and that there will be opportunities for promotion and salary increases in the near future, you need to set higher expectations for them and help them achieve outstanding performance in competition. To be honest, subordinates who are motivated by salary are easier to manage. At least you can understand their needs. Conversely, if a subordinate is not motivated by salary or career prospects, it can be more difficult to motivate them. How to retain important subordinates. Dealing with a subordinate who only talks about promotion and salary is relatively easy. But what if an important subordinate tells you they want to resign? How do you retain them? The first step is to exhaust the reasons for their resignation. However, at the same time, you should not give your opinion every time the subordinate gives a reason, as the reasons they give may not be their true reasons. For example, if the subordinate says the salary is too low, and you immediately say, "Okay, I'll give you a raise," or if the subordinate says the work is too tiring, and you say, "Okay, I'll give you a break," or if the subordinate says they want to go to a competitor, and you say how bad the competitor is, etc. This kind of conversation makes you appear to have no bargaining chips, and even if you retain the person, you will pay a high price. So how do you exhaust the reasons for their resignation? You can ask, "Are there any other reasons besides this one?" Let the subordinates speak freely and tell you all their grievances. In fact, all problems can be classified into 3 categories: not enough money, no development, and emotional injury. The second step is to determine which reason is the main reason among these reasons. Generally, few people will wait until all 3 aspects of money, development, and emotions have problems before resigning. The key to this step is to ask for details, as this can help you determine the real reason for the subordinate's resignation. Here are some questioning techniques. For example, when it comes to salary-related issues, you need to ask clearly, how much did others increase their salary? Is it before or after tax? This information will be useful when you negotiate with the company's HR in the future. Another example is to observe which reason the subordinate is most emotional and detailed about when speaking. This often helps you determine the main reason. Also, if you have a good relationship with the subordinate, you can even ask directly, "What is the main reason?" Or, "Do you feel the company's prospects are not good? Which leader makes you uncomfortable?" And so on. Finally, you need a confirmation action, asking them, "If this reason is resolved, do you plan to stay?" Don't underestimate this confirmation, because based on my experience, more than half of employees who resign do so impulsively or without thinking it through. Every time you talk about resignation, it is actually a process of helping employees sort out their life and career plans and finding solutions. Once you have identified the real reason for the subordinate's resignation, you can move on to the third step and propose your solution. If you truly understand your subordinate's needs, persuasion will become simple and there are only three possible outcomes. Firstly, your subordinate may have made a misjudgment due to a lack of information. After you clarify and explain the situation, they will understand and choose to stay. For example, your subordinate may already be on the promotion list but is unaware of it, or they may want to work for a certain company that you know is actually not a good fit. Secondly, if the company is unable to offer the same level of compensation, development, or emotional support as other companies, you need to report this to HR and fight for better policies. Thirdly, even if you have tried your best, and even the company's top executives have intervened, it may still be impossible to retain the employee. In this case, you should focus on a smooth transition and minimize losses. Now, let's discuss how to handle the situation when a subordinate is not performing well and needs to be let go. I will provide advice on mindset, actions, and communication. Firstly, you need to understand that letting unsuitable employees go early is beneficial for both parties. I was deeply impressed by a personal experience. In a previous company, there was a rule that the lowest performing employee would be let go. One of my subordinates consistently ranked last in performance, but I couldn't bring myself to let her go, and even defended her in front of the CEO. At the end of the year, she left on her own and sent me a long message expressing her hatred towards me and how miserable the year had been. This made me realize that letting unsuitable employees go early is beneficial for both parties. Secondly, persuading an employee to leave should not only happen at the last minute but should be discussed during every performance review. You need to specifically point out the employee's shortcomings in terms of both ability and attitude. Unless the employee has a bad attitude and intends to stay in the company for the long term, you need to seek support from the HR department, or even the legal department. If a normal employee realizes that you are constantly and objectively pointing out their shortcomings, they will generally choose to leave on their own. Finally, in terms of communication, you need to establish a consensus and help the employee find a solution that meets their needs. The communication process should be similar to that of persuading an employee to stay. You need to understand what the employee wants and help them find a solution. I have personally experienced a difficult conversation about letting an employee go, but the final result was satisfactory for both parties. One of my subordinates had been a sales representative for 10 years, but he became disengaged and his work performance suffered. However, he kept mentioning that he was a senior employee and had a good relationship with the sales manager, and he showed an attitude of, "I won't leave, you figure it out." Prior to the formal conversation, I took 3 steps. Firstly, I asked him to ponder 2 questions and answer them during our discussion. Why did he join the company, and has he achieved what he wanted? Secondly, I directly approached the sales manager and truthfully conveyed the situation. The manager was highly professional and respected all decisions made by the frontline manager, thus relieving me of any psychological pressure. With this authorization, I was able to act freely. Thirdly, I consulted the Human Resources Department to understand relevant legal policies, which gave me more leverage during negotiations. The formal conversation was initially more difficult than I had anticipated. The subordinate insisted that he was capable of performing his job and that I was being unfair. Rather than directly refuting him, I asked him the 2 questions I had previously posed, which led to a breakthrough in our conversation. It turned out that he had been in the sales representative position for 10 years and had limited growth, leading to professional burnout. He had joined the company because of its comprehensive training mechanism, but as a dispatched employee, he could not be promoted to sales manager. He was unwilling to give up the company's generous benefits, but also wanted to become a sales supervisor or even manager. However, he was unsure of his abilities and was afraid to take risks. After understanding his aspirations, I analyzed his current situation and told him that I believed he had the ability to become a sales supervisor or even manager. I also provided him with a solution. He could go out for interviews in the near future to explore external opportunities. However, if he decided to stay, he must give it his all and improve his performance. I presented concrete evidence to him, explaining that his previous lackadaisical attitude had already had a negative impact on the company and his reputation in the industry. This solution exceeded his expectations, and he expressed his gratitude earnestly. A week later, he came to me and said that he had found a job as a city sales manager at a food company. Although the pressure was greater, he was not getting any younger and needed to make an effort for himself and his family. 2 years later, I met him again at a sales forum. He came over to shake my hand and thank me for encouraging him to leave. He was now a regional sales manager, and if he had continued to stay at the company, he would not have had such an opportunity. That concludes my story. I hope that my experience will inspire you when you encounter similar situations in the future.